Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, so you all should have it in the chat. Do you all want the other documents as well? I think that Sandy had sent around the Santa Fe River and Wood evaluations. Do you want me to put those in the chat as well?
I would appreciate that if you did, because we didn't get, some of us got a forward that didn't have the attachments.
Okay.
No problem.
If you have it.
Thank you, Amanda.
No problem.
We have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Say no. Hearing none, the agenda has been approved.
Hey, did everybody get the evaluations in the chat along with the agenda?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure thing.
Yes. I see it. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward to the minutes of October 22nd, 2020. Those have been previously presented via email by Sandy. Thank you very much, Sandy. If you haven't taken a look at them, I trust that you have here in just over the last few minutes. I notice on item number 3, there is a blank on who seconded that motion for the approval of the minutes from September 24th. Personally, I believe it is Jason, but we will let's see if Jason wants to make a statement there. But do we have any questions regarding the minutes as presented? If not, I need a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Yes, Jason. Second, we have a first and second. Any further discussion regarding these minutes except for the waiting on Jason to see if he will accept the item number 3 that needs to be indicated who approved that. And we will, if Jason was, he was traveling, I believe. Is that correct? Still waiting to get here? Is this Jason now?
Yep.
Oh, very good. Great. Welcome, Jason. We're just talking about you. Yeah.
Question is, are you willing to let us put your name in this yellow blank on the minutes thing here?
The explanation is I was having technological difficulties and was not able to hear who that was, and our recorder was...
Yes, that was you, Jason.
4 months ago.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any further questions regarding the minutes? Have a motion to approve?
By Susan, seconded by Dwayne.
Thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor of approving minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those not in favor, say nay. Hearing none, the minutes have been approved.
I didn't get, I'm sorry, who gave the motion in a second on that?
Susan and Dwayne.
We now have some new members with us, which is great. And Wesley Boone, please introduce yourself, and we would love to hear from you.
Hi, so I'm the new can y'all hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so I am the new alternate. My name is Wes Boone. I have a PhD from WEC. I've lived in Alachua County for 8.5 years. So I have a pretty thorough background in the science and management aspects of conservation. And so I'm pretty excited to apply that here, and then also learn a lot about the acquisition and about just everything that this board does, and see where all we can go with it.
Welcome. Thank you very much,
Welcome.
Wesley. We welcome very much, and we look forward to all your comments that you'll be providing and experience to the board. Thank you very much. Moving on to property evaluations. Andy, I guess you're on cue here for all that, aren't you? And that is the Santa Fe River Wood property.
may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
That maybe we skip to Alabin since the fellow from High Springs isn't there yet, unless he got
They're
there?
here.
Oh, he's there, okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
And if you all recall, our methodology here of listening to these evaluations is to let the entire evaluation go through, be presented to us. Then I'll go around the group and ask for questions from each individual, one question, whatever they want to ask. And then after we go through the group, we will open the floor to questions from everyone. And so that should hopefully take us through the evaluations a little on the quicker side. And I think it has done that from the past. So go ahead, Andy, and let us go ahead and present, please. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Russ. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. We are presenting 2 properties today for full evaluation, and the first one is the Santa Fe River Wood or Canoe Outpost property. And before I go too far, is anyone having difficulty hearing me?
No.
Okay. All right, well, our opening slide is a lovely view of the Santa Fe River, taken very near the wood property by Charlie. So appreciate his artistry there. The Santa Fe River project is the highest ranking project in the ACF program. So it has a REPA score of 8.96 out of 9.44. This specific property's score is 6.47 out of 10. It's a 2.41 acre parcel under 1 ownership. It has 2 buildings on it. One is the house/office that is the operations center of the Canoe Outpost. And the other one is a small shed associated with sort of an outdoor sitting area. The just value from the property appraiser is $73,100 acres, or dollars, sorry. It's huge. Or $30,332 an acre. The total value is $117,012, or $48,553 per acre. The landowners have an asking price established based on an independent property assessment of $591,000 for the property and the Canoe Outpost business and all of its holdings. That does not include the Jim Wood Realty, which currently has its office at the building on site, but that's the Canoe Outpost business. And the property, they are looking to sell the property. The Alachua County Forever program's participation could be through either fee simple purchase or conservation easement purchase. The property is located on the Santa Fe River. I don't know if the Zoomers can, I guess you can't see that, so this is my bad. I should have set this up sooner, but hopefully the Zoomers.
Did you share your screen, Sandy?
No, we can see it. We can see it
fine,
Yeah,
Andy.
we can see it.
Yeah.
Did you share your screen so the Zoomers can see?
Oh,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing? Okay.
They can see your cursor, right, when you're.
Sometimes they can. Can you guys see the
Yeah,
cursor?
I can see the cursor. I can see what you drew.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so, and then for in-house here, you can see it's the red parcel there. It is the parcel that is adjacent to Highway 441, immediately south of the bridge over the Santa Fe River. You can see the landscape context. It is directly across the river from River Rise Preserve State Park. In fact, the parcel immediately across the river was acquired by the state of Florida in 2020 as an addition to River Rise Preserve State Park. It is directly across Highway 441 from the ACF Camp Alachua conservation easement. So that's an easement already held by the program. And it's a short distance from, to the west of the property is a county park, McCall Park, which is apparently partially intact habitat and also has a former dump on it. I have not been to that property though. Sorry. I think I have to stop annotating. Move forward. Parcel view of the property, you can see the grayish blue coloration is the outstanding Florida waterway footprint that is mapped associated with the Santa Fe River outstanding Florida waterway. It on the ground pretty much exactly lines up with the footprint of the floodplain forest on the property. The south side of the property is a transition to upland hardwood forest, and it's pretty much lined up. You can see the house and business located in the middle. That is almost on the transition point between those two habitat types. The strip adjacent to the parcel to the east, before you hit Highway 441, is the slope for the built-up portion of Highway 441. To the west, that parcel is privately owned, but it is not developed. And you can see that a little bit better here when you undo all of the stuff I've drawn. Okay, you can see that a little bit better here. The parcels going to the west, the floodplain forest there is also essentially undevelopable, and so it is still intact. The High Springs boat ramp, if anyone has ever launched there, is right at the end of this road that comes up to the Santa Fe River. And that's, well, all right, sorry, technical difficulties right here. And then again, you can see immediately to the east is the Camp Alachua conservation easement. The property is primarily sandy soils, and essentially what the landowner told us was that the building, which is again right here in the middle, has only flooded one time in the history of the their ownership of the property, and that was after Hurricane Irma. And at that point, the second floor of the building is where the office, and they have essentially a rental apartment on the other end of it. That water entered into that portion of the building. Of course, many things flooded after Irma. All right. For those of you that have been up Highway 441 in this section of the county, you may recognize this location. So that's the sign in the turn-in off of 441 into the property. And that comes in near the southeast corner of the property. You can see the turn-in right to the left of the word legend on this map. The building itself is raised, and again, because the landowners are looking to sell the business and the land as well, you can see things in this image that are part of the sale. Multiple passenger vans, canoe, kayak, shuttle trailers, the building, of course, all of the PFDs and paddles, all of the materials that make up the canoe and kayak and stand-up paddleboard rental business. Looking from the back porch, I'll go back one slide here. From the back porch that you see right here on the building, down towards the river, you can see they have constructed a boardwalk that goes to their actual canoe launch. And all of the watercraft that you see are part of this sale as well. The boardwalk goes through the floodplain forest, but the other thing that you see is a sort of heavier traffic impact in the area where there's the concentrated movement of boats and vehicles, et cetera, is. And that heavier traffic impact is present basically on both sides, the north and south side of the building, where parking is and where people have come in to utilize the business. The floodplain forest itself is in relatively untouched condition because of the boardwalk. They've been able to control the human traffic along that courseway, and so it's actually in good condition. And then you see, of course, the canoe launch area gets a little bit higher traffic, so you can see on the right a little bit of impact on the slope over here, but where the dock is, and then either side of those two things along the property boundary on the river, it's in very good condition. They have 225 feet of river frontage with this parcel. Oh. Okay. And you can see here, the picture on the top is taken from the northeast corner of the property, looking south along the property's river frontage. And you can see that the majority of that river bank is intact, and then this area that I'm circling is the area where the actual canoe launch is. And that's where that's on the bottom picture, that's this area where you had seen in that previous picture a little bit more impact on the vegetation. But the majority of that riverfront is intact and looks good. The upland hardwood forest to the sides of where the office is in better shape, but because it's the higher and drier land, the footprint that would have been the upland hardwood forest obviously has been impacted by the vehicle and human foot traffic associated with, coming in and out of the business. Where the white car is, right back here, that is just off the southwest corner of the property, just a few feet off the property corner. So it's everything from that white car forward. There are limited non-native invasive plants on the site. The ones that are there are essentially all in a landscape planting. Tuberous sword fern, the wilted stuff right behind the sword fern is elephant ear. There's a little bit of asparagus fern. Nothing really spreading out into the floodplain forest, and nothing really further out in the upland hardwood forest. And then inside, just the two little views. The office is the top picture, and then just the kitchen area of the apartment, that's the rental apartment, is the bottom picture. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath rental apartment. The natural communities on site are, again, floodplain forest in good condition, upland hardwood forest in fair condition because of impacts on the ground cover, and then, of course, the spring-fed river, major river, Santa Fe River, in excellent condition. The property has been nominated to the Alachua County Forever program for consideration as, again, a conservation easement or fee simple purchase, but a fee simple purchase would be a deviation from our previous practices with this program. However, the City of High Springs has also expressed interest in acquisition of the property, and there are two representatives from the city here tonight, and I will provide them with an opportunity to make comment should they care to when you are ready for that. And so the city has requested the county's participation either through a joint purchase or through the purchase of a conservation easement. That's probably the main summary, and then I guess the other thing I left out, there are two archaeological sites on the property. The one that has more detail associated with it was discovered as a result of the disturbance associated with the construction of the Highway 441 bridge over the Santa Fe River. So it's at the northeast corner of the property, and it has evidence of an ongoing occupation by multiple cultures. The Santa Fe River is part of the Emerald Necklace Land Conservation Initiative, and of course, I think those of us that live in the area are familiar with its use and popularity for recreational access for boaters, fisher persons, and others. So with that, I will turn it back to Russ.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for thorough evaluation. We appreciate it very much. Thank you for everything you do. I think at this time, before I go around the group, I'm going to ask the representatives here from High Springs if they would like to add any comment to what they have heard to this review at this point. So,
myself and
very good. I opened the, what was your name? I'm sorry.
Damon Messina. Do I just talk loud? Is that how?
Yeah, that's fine.
Conference phone in the middle.
Conference phone? Do you want me to stand up or?
Yeah, that's probably good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
fine.
Well, I'm Damon Messina. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of High Springs. You know, Jim Wood, the gentleman that's had this place, had it for many, many years, and it's a true asset, a true gem in our community. You know, I do parks, but one of the biggest things that really interests me in this is community for the most part, to be completely transparent. There are a lot of kids in our community that had the opportunity to even come up here, and I think partner up with the county, finding a proper contractor that can help run this business will give us opportunity to, even with the kids in our community, to have the opportunity to see the essence of High Springs. I mean, that's one of the biggest things for myself. You know, there would be minor changes as far as the landscape goes. I mean, you know, we would have to work on the fleets perhaps every so often, the vehicles and, you know, some of the other assets that they have there. It's a gem, and there's a lot going on in High Springs, and I think this is going to get us on top of that. But any questions, please let us know. But it's really big, and also for economic impact as well. But again, community is such a huge thing for this. As a matter of fact, I mean, this is the logo of High Springs. You know, we got someone on a canoe. So, but, there are several sites where they do the drop-off, one of which is Coast Springs, and all the other following springs, even outside of the county as well. But it's a beautiful site, and we're hoping that we can partner up with the county and go from there. I appreciate your time. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you for your comments. Anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I won't take long. My name is David Sutton. I am actually the CRA coordinator for the City of High Springs, and I'm also, which is strange nowadays, a local homegrown product. High Springs is my hometown. My family goes back generations. My dad grew up playing in that river. I grew up on the river. So seeing the canoe outpost stay as part of the river and accessible to all people, and to know that the river development's coming everywhere, Gainesville, and to know that we could save that one little piece for people and possibly use it as an education tool for kids and others who are coming to the area, it's something that I would like to see the canoe outpost used for. I'm afraid that if we don't take this opportunity with the county and the City of High Springs, that if it does go to someone else, we might lose whatever there is there for a long, long time.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Thank you both of you all for coming and commenting on this potential project. I'm going to go around the group now and see what kind of questions we can ask. Let's see here. Jason. Sorry to pick on you first, Jason.
No problem. Can the people, you guys hear me? Okay.
There you go, now you're on camera.
That's the
You're off camera.
Microphone's over here, just
Come back.
talk loud.
Yep. This is your mic.
So the main question I have is, you know, the price tag kind of makes me kind of reel a little bit. For basically 2.4 acres, it's, you know, 240,000 or 200, whatever it is, per acre is quite a shock. Does this, purchase price include everything? Like canoes, fleet vehicles?
All their assets.
Okay, then the other question I have is, so when we buy, that's also the business itself, right, as far as the name and,
EBN.
and so what would the city, did you have an idea of what that your contribution would be?
300,000.
Okay. I think that makes it, dramatically more palatable to me. And I do, I mean, I've gone to, I've done the night canoes and stuff from there, so it's, so I think given that light, without the city's assistance, I would probably be adamantly against it. But with all the consideration of all the different factors, I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you, Jason. And Brett's not here. That's correct, right?
Brett is here online, I thought.
Here. Yep.
Brett's online. Brett?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Comments, Brett?
Can you hear
I
me?
hear you, Brett.
Frank got a thumbs up, and Mandy gave us a thumbs up.
We can on Zoom.
You can or can't?
Yes,
We
for
can hear you
Zoom.
on
Zoom
Zoom.
you can, but I don't think they can hear me in the
Some
room
people
here.
can hear him, but we can't hear him, I think.
We are
Can
going
you
to come
all
back
hear
to
other
Brett.
people from on
Maybe
Zoom?
we'll figure out this glitch. Paul?
I'm adamantly opposed to it because of the money, the price of the thing. I think the wildlife, value of it, I know the, ACT is, on the the headwaters of the Santa Fe River have been buying land for $2,000 an acre. And I think that spending that much money on 2 acres, I think it's not in the mission of what this program is all about, in my opinion. So I'm against it.
Thank you, Paul. Ed?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning with Paul that, even with the 300,000 contribution from the city of High Springs, it's still very pricey for us to basically be buying a business.
Susan?
Well, I just have a question, and it's also offered as a conservation easement sale, but I'm trying to wrap my head around that one. So, if it's not in conservation, not bought by the county or whatever, what would be the future land, predicted or estimated future land use? I mean, it's commercial zones,
Right.
2 acres, I mean, I don't think there'd be a whole lot of additional.
It's mixed use, is the designated land use, and the zoning is general business. And so I can go back to slideshow.
Can you talk a little louder?
Sorry, there's gonna be many pictures.
Sorry, Andy, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you maybe move closer to the microphone?
The easement would be over the floodplain and all
Just,
that.
yeah, which you would be selling the rights to.
Can you all hear me?
I don't think they can hear you, Amanda.
That was my question.
I think we're,
You good, Susan? Okay, thank you. BJ?
I also want to echo the same sentiments. This is a really tiny property that really doesn't meet our mission. There's a business on it.
They have to unmute themselves.
Can everybody hear?
Yeah, but we can't hear any of them now.
Yeah, BJ is unmuted.
Maybe we're muted.
Yes.
No, muting means we can't talk. We should be able to hear.
So they can all hear each other, though.
They can hear us.
We can totally hear you.
Do you have to hand over the controls to them maybe for?
They should be able to unmute themselves
Can
and
you
talk.
hear us?
We were hearing
Yeah, we can
others
hear you.
before.
Yes.
Plenty of people.
Yeah. Type
something.
Typing? Chat?
So, okay.
You have to play the piano. That's
Because BJ is not muted.
See all those
And
people
Brett
that's
is
muted
not
over there?
muted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can't hear me.
Okay,
Is
I
there
can
something
hear
on
you
that
all.
phone right there that needs to be turned up?
Well,
So
maybe
what?
she did.
So we can hear each other on Zoom.
Yeah, when it's
We can
muted,
hear
it's
the
up
room,
over
but they
lights are all
can't hear
red.
us.
The volume is up.
Okay.
And I put that on chat, so they need to read the chat.
Yeah, it just says,
right there.
Great.
I can hear you.
BJ, can you, type your question into the chat?
Yeah, go, try that, Brett, if it's,
Or
BJ.
Brett?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Let's go with BJ first.
This is weird.
Yeah.
Maybe the
This
microphone.
is what I haven't seen before.
I mean, maybe the speaker just,
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
maybe that's it.
Telephone? Are we muted? Do we mute ourselves?
but they can hear us, right? You can hear us, right? Yeah, okay.
What's in the?
Okay, BJ, I am opposed due to it not meeting our mission, similar to US 301 parcel, too small with the business, so I would be opposed.
Thank you, BJ. We read that, and I think everybody heard that.
Yeah, turn up your speaker, there you go.
Can you hear us?
Turn down our speakers by accident.
No, I didn't. It should be coming through the.
Can you all hear us?
We can
You
try.
might be able to hear it through your speakers over there.
Someone talk.
Hello, can you all
Hello.
hear us?
Okay, no.
Yeah.
We're talking.
Still can't hear
Hello?
you.
No, nothing?
That's weird.
Mute all, hit mute all and then unmute all, and see if that'll work.
I don't think there is an unmute all, that's the problem.
Yeah, up there in the chat box thing, you say mute all, then unmute all. Go down, right there.
Oh.
Yeah. See, there is no blanket unmute. So, BJ, try unmuting yourself and talking.
Okay, can you hear me?
No.
Hello?
That's weird.
Let's try.
But they can hear him. Wesley can hear him. You guys can hear BJ.
All right, we've heard from BJ through chat, and that was, read by, Andy. I'm gonna go on to a, local voice here of Dwayne.
Yeah, I'll be opposed to, same reason, I think it go against the mission. To buy a business, to continue to run it as a business, to me, I said if it, far as the community go, if it was buying it for free and having the service for free so the community can use it. But,
You can't hear.
at 300,000 that, maybe High Springs can come up with the money and buy it for the use of whatever purpose they have. So I'll be against it.
Thank you, Dwayne. Brian?
I'm a bit on the fence. I would normally echo the opposition I've heard thus far for the reasons already stated, that the program is generally not set up for, and really never has before that I'm aware of, acquired a property that had any significant value attributed to improvements on the property like this. However, it's very intriguing. I think a conservation easement is absolutely inappropriate here. The property is too small. As Susan said, the value of a conservation easement is primarily in the development rights that you extinguish, and there are basically no remaining development rights that are of substance beyond what it's currently being used for within reason. That said, I would be a hard no on this too, but for the city being a willing partner. I originally had assumed that you all would be interested in bringing this in under your operations and taking over, and not using it as a concession and having some third party run it. So that distinction isn't major for me. And your willingness to contribute the lion's share of the value, that basically covers, in my view, a reasonable estimate of what those structures are worth, without having any information about the value of the business and what their profit and losses look like over the last 10 years or whatever that an appraiser would use to put in an opinion of value on the business. I'm intrigued.
We can provide that if you need those numbers.
Well, it wouldn't be for us. We generally are not supposed to be discussing value other than as it pertains to cost benefit compared to what else we're considering. But as far as the actual deal itself, that's an appraisal issue, and then ultimately the county commission decides whether or not it's a good deal. We can opine, but it's really outside of our scope. I'm actually in favor. I would like to see how an appraisal would come out on this. I'm, like I said, opposed to any real discussion about a conservation easement. It's not a good fit for that, no matter who owns it. And to have it protected, even though it's not particularly imperiled, but to keep it as a community asset, as basically a public canoe launch post in a place where you can get your canoes, I think there's high value in that. And I disagree with everybody saying this is outside the scope of our program. I think the acquisition of improvements like that is outside the scope. But if that's subsidized by the city or the state or a water management district, that kind of nullifies my objection there. But I think it needs to stay in operation as it is, as a relatively low impact use. And I'm with those conditions in favor.
Thank you, Brian.
Can I read a comment from Charlie?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Charlie added a comment that says, ACF would not need to purchase the business. High Springs could do that. The county would acquire a share of the real estate.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Charlie. Going back to our online folks, Amanda, I assume we still can't hear anybody, so if you could maybe type up something. Yes, chat.
Yes. Yep.
Look in the chat.
I love the idea of a property that can be open to and attract the public, from Amanda. And Tom K has his hand raised as well.
But he can't speak.
But I'm wondering if we should hang up the phone and redial in.
Not a bad idea, because I don't think that this is going to be frustrating for the rest of the meeting if we just try to trudge forward like this.
But how do you want to proceed?
From the standpoint of...
So the phone is the audio connected to this computer, to the main computer that's hosting the Zoom. So I can hang it up and redial it back into it for the audio.
Oh.
Is that what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a Zoom situation. This is disconnected to that computer situation.
No, it's as if you joined a Zoom and you called in with your cell phone. I just called in with the conference phone.
Oh, but they'll still all be there.
Yeah.
I don't think they can hear us. I don't think our Zoom people, I don't think we go anywhere,
Can I
right?
ask a question while we're...
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
We're just going to stay on while they...
If you guys stay on, because it's an independent speakerphone system that we'll hear them and they can hear us through. So that's probably what happened. Something got disconnected. Or
why don't they just do it through Zoom though?
Because the microphone, if you do it through Zoom, is pretty awful. It's hard to hear through the computer microphone. That's why when Andy and I went to the historic meeting, everybody in the room could hear each other, but it was really hard for people Zooming in to hear. So this system actually works pretty good. I think that Susan might have been right that something happened when the presentation went up. That might have been a disconnect.
Jude.
Yeah, is the meeting still going?
It is.
No, I don't hear anyone.
Because we're waiting to get reconnected. Ooh, do you need to open that?
Can they hear us at all?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I need to mute myself. Baby, you can come and say hi to everybody. We're kind of waiting. Are you shy now? Okay, you can say hi. You want to say hi? Do you want to tell them your name? No? That's okay. You don't have to, baby. All right. Go finish your paper. Okay, love you. Baby, go finish your paper. Thanks, guys.
I would have thought the phone number would be done by now. Yes.
What's that? Yeah.
Charlie, are you on? Are you on Zoom or are you in the?
Charlie's on Zoom. I see him.
On Zoom. If High Springs buys the business and
We're not allowed to do, we're not really allowed to ask any questions without having the whole board here.
oh, okay. I was
So
just trying to be
sunshine
time
law.
efficient.
I know, I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
I'm sorry, this is a government organization. That's not allowed.
Okay.
Just
We're
a
all
joke.
on.
Right now, that was my bad.
Oh, you're in?
We're all here. We're back.
We're here, we're here.
Okay,
Go ahead.
my bad.
So you can hear us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
Go ahead, Brett.
Okay. So my understanding is that we wouldn't be buying, or we can't buy the business. That would be up to High Springs. And so what would the purchase of the real estate give us? Is that something that is worked out between, that's not our role, I guess, or I'm trying to understand, like, what are we getting for the real estate? Is there a guarantee of like public access or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Charlie.
we could do it a couple of different ways. The simplest would just be a joint purchase of the real estate assets, which would be the bare ground and could include the improvements. And then the value of the business would be layered on top of that, and High Springs could take care of that. So we would just be a joint owner in the property with High Springs in that case. We also proposed this as a potential conservation easement with the idea that it would be theoretically possible for a future owner to increase the intensity of the use on the property. And by holding a conservation easement, we could prevent that from happening. We could keep it in its current level of intensity or less. None of that has been worked out. All of that would be subject to appraisal and approval by the county commission. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you.
So just concluding then, I am concerned by the price tag. I'd be interested to know what the business value is. It sounds like it's 300,000. But anyways, I guess I like the idea that this could provide additional access to the Santa Fe. And I also question if it does go beyond the mission. I don't know, is providing access to people to this waterway part of the mission? I feel like recreation is part of our mission in some ways.
Sandy?
I feel like it serves a public good. So, but I'm torn. I'm like a yay nay. I'm in the middle. I'll give me about 10 minutes. I'll make a decision.
All right, thank you, Brett. Bruce.
Yes, thank you. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, good. My feeling is similar to what some of the others have said, particularly Brian. I don't see us necessarily buying the whole piece, but with the High Springs coming in and so forth, that makes a difference. I can see us wanting the county to purchase a conservation easement at a very, very low price because there's very little use for conservation easement. It's been pointed out it has almost no potential for building, but it might be good to have one in place if it didn't cost a lot of money. I also think that perhaps a vote on this should be put off until another meeting when we have a little more information on how this could be broken down in cost and so forth.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bruce, very much. Wesley?
Yeah, I'm another one of those that's on the fence. The price tag sounds really large for the limited acreage, but what puts me on the fence is also that potential to provide access to the river without having to do much in the way of site improvement. We're not buying natural area and then running a road through it to put the canoe launch. That's already there, so that sounds very beneficial. At the same time, I'm not sure moving forward if they sell it to someone else, having $300,000 worth of boats and all, I imagine it's probably going to be another canoe launch with another private owner. I'll eat my words if, industry buys it though.
Thank you, Wesley. Myself, on this particular project, I think I'm the last one here for the first go-around. It is a challenging decision here. I lean towards a conservation easement, and it's amazing what, down the road, what can happen to certain properties over, 50 years, 100 years, or whatever it may be. Somebody gets pretty creative on doing something with the acres that can be something put on it over time. I think the aspect of having such an asset to the community to be able to enjoy the river, learn about the river, learn about all the interrelated things that go along with the conservation of such a resource is extremely important to the folks in Alachua County and even Columbia County. So I lean towards a conservation easement. I'm going to assume that High Springs would still kick in money there for buying the business portion of it. It also perhaps give us the advantage of taking care of some of the erosion issues and so on. With that, I'm gonna close my comment and open the floor up to anybody who would like to speak.
Andy's got.
Also, BJ was muted when you
Oh,
went around.
BJ?
He never got to read.
Oh, I'm sorry, BJ, go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a tough one. I did say I'm opposed, and I do with it just being such a small site, the business. With regards to a conservation easement, if I don't see us spending that money, I mean, the city should do that. If that's the only way that, the only thing that can be brokered is they should be paying for that conservation easement. It's in their city. It's their, it'd be in their best interest to do that. There is a great public outreach and public access component, but yeah, which is important, but I also kind of think it's probably going to stay that kind of use. If it turns into a single residence, that is kind of a loss. But I'm just leery to spend that kind of money for such a tiny property. And it just keeping this money to pursue other ventures with larger contiguous kind of properties and stuff would be my desire. So that's it.
Thank you, BJ.
I have one real quick question, and it's just a piece of information that hasn't been mentioned at all.
Okay.
This would be a perfect SBT grant. I don't know why anybody hasn't talked about it. So that could be an option where we make a contingent on that, or at least put that in play.
Yep.
And so no one's talked about bargain share or any of that. I mean, it sort of is bargain share because we're pairing up with another entity. So I just wanted to mention that, because that should be really important.
Thank you, Brian.
I'd just like Sandy, if you would please, as you have done so eloquently before, state the purpose of the mission statement of the program for everybody's benefit.
Oh, wow.
Put you on the spot.
On my last LCB meeting as staff, you're gonna let me state it?
Yes.
To acquire, improve, and manage but now you got me all nervous. To acquire, improve, and manage, oh my God. Pressure of it all, you guys. I say this all the time. To acquire, improve, and manage ecologically sensitive lands that protect water resources, wildlife habitats, and natural areas suitable for resource-based recreation. I do have like a further comment, if I'm allowed to make it.
Yes, go ahead, Susan.
Sandy.
So we, as far as my reading and understanding of our enabling legislation, we really can't buy a business. We buy conservation lands. So, I mean, if we did move forward on this, and Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, the business would have to be appraised separately. And the business is worth, in my understanding, much more than 300 canoes and kayaks. It is a business that's been around for 30 years, that has an income, and there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into appraising a business. We would only be able to work with the city or the owners on the acquisition of the land itself. We don't really buy businesses or something that's a part of the land. We could buy like the building. So, you know, keep that in mind. Unless somebody, you know, unless my reading of the program is wrong, but this is my 20 years of experience here.
Mr. Chair, I concur.
I do as well, for what that's worth.
Thank you. Yes.
Also say no, the landowner is also.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to build on what Sandy said and Brian. So, first of all, this is an asking price, right? I don't know a whole lot about where this number came from or anything, but I'm presuming that if we move forward this, there would be a bunch, you know, new appraisals. We have our own appraisals, and I agree with Sandy. You know, if we wanted to move forward to work with the city, we're really talking about buying the land, the underlying land, right? And that's probably way less than $500,000 or whatever it is. So, and I'm actually leaning for that right now with that understanding, because it does facilitate, you know, recreation and access and all that stuff. So I kind of like, and again, I don't know where that number came from. You know, that sounds like it may be some kind of appraisal.
It did have an appraisal.
Okay, of a business
Correct.
value, right. So it's not really the number we're thinking about, and we're not really supposed to think that heavily about numbers anyhow, but so I just want to put that out there.
Thank you, Susan.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a follow-up question of our guest from High Springs?
Yes, go ahead, Amanda.
Thanks. Related to the suggestion of a conservation easement, for the folks from High Springs, has the city considered purchasing a conservation easement for this property?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I believe so. I don't know that 100%. I do apologize for that.
No, that's okay. But I mean, I think that might be, given the size of the property, that it's very small. It is in the city of High Springs, but it is something that we would hope would be protected. That might be something, at least I would like to have that information, if that's possible for the city to do before I make a decision about what I want the county to do about it.
Thank you, Amanda. We have the Andersons online here.
Mr. Wood.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wood. We would like to hear from y'all, if you don't mind, and just sort of give us your take on what we're discussing here, and if you can have anything further to add, we'd appreciate it.
Ready to start the video?
Sure. Howdy, folks. My name is Jim Wood. I'm calling from balmy Minnesota, where it's about 16 degrees right now. So I hope you're all enjoying yourselves down in Gainesville. I think everyone has made some valid comments, both pro and con. My wife and I, main thinking is that we would rather sell to an entity like yourselves rather than
to be preserved.
have to be preserved, rather than to sell perhaps someone who might want to consider developing it. I know a couple pieces of land contiguous to us have been bought by private entities recently, and that just concerns me. I did in March have a 103-page appraisal done, which I'd be happy to send everybody involved here if that would help you give a little bit more clarity as to where we arrived at our value. I just in 30 years of doing this, I've just fallen in love with the river, and it's done a lot for me and my family, and for the city of High Springs. I just would like to make sure it does not fall in the hands of someone who may want to tell me they're going to do X and end up doing Y, and ruining what we have there. So that's our main. We purposely have not put it on the market in hopes that we could talk to you guys first and see if something could be done. So, but I understand your concept. I understand your concerns and your guidelines and your mission statements. But my goal would be to sell to an entity like yourselves who would take care of and preserve what we have there. And I mean, the business itself is doing well now, but potentially could even be even better. So there's a dual value, the land itself and also the business itself, what it generates income wise. And again, we could send everybody a copy of this appraisal, so you have a better idea where we're coming from and all the details involved, and et cetera, et cetera. So I know you have to do what you got to do, and I appreciate and respect everything you guys are doing.
Thank you very much, Jim. My one question with that comment is, what kind of time frame are you looking at in this for a transaction to occur on the property? Are you willing to still be looking at 6 months down the road, a year down the road, 1 month down the road? What are you kind of looking at? What do you think in your mind with this?
Well, I would say that I'm not in a rush. We have the season coming up, which we starting probably in the next 30 days, and we'll be again. Since the pandemic started back last March, we have been so busy and so overwhelmed. It's a very good time to be, having this business. But and I understand you guys don't move necessarily at the speed of light because of all the bureaucracy that's involved. I'd say a year might be extending it, but a month to 6 months in that range, I would certainly not dismiss it. Unless I hear, unless I, heard what I had to say was going to be negative, but I'm flexible. I really am flexible. I would rather have it sell to you guys than I would someone who's going to do something different to it. That's my whole concept. So
We're happy.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tom Kay's on the phone and he would like to make.
Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope you can hear me. I appreciate listening to all this. I just kind of wanted to get just a couple thoughts out there. I appreciate the Woods being on there. I have been working with the Woods, Damon with the City of High Springs, a number of staff, and some other folks from the county on this project trying to see a good outcome. I mean, I think there's really good points. I mean, I understand the folks who are, addressing the issue of the cost of it. And I realize, we're buying, as Paul, accurately pointed out, we're buying land at far cheaper prices just up the river, but the zoning is different. And I think, the idea of being able to keep this as an asset to the community is amazing. And I'm really appreciative of the Woods trying to work with the city and the county to have a good outcome, because there's no certainty. If someone said, well, $300,000, if you're investing that much into canoes and kayaks and all these structures, you're probably going to keep it. The reality is there's people buying stuff and getting rid of that stuff just as quickly and putting something worse. And I think one of the concepts we have to keep in mind is that, yes, much worse things could be put in place, and, you just get creative with your imagination and imagine. And even when we have good zoning and ordinance things in, I did a paddle with DEP in the Water Management District just a couple months ago, and we found a bunch of stuff where it should never have happened along the river, and it did. And there's now there's a number of things, and they're going to have to try to, work that back, but you can't bring some of that stuff back. And if you've been on the property along the shoreline there's still a lot of cypress knees. It's in relatively good shape. In an ideal world, would we use this through county parks money or something different than this funding mechanism? Absolutely. But I think we got to be a little bit strategic with it. And I would also say, hey, we had more time, we would have put in an FCT grant ourselves to help the county and, the city try to acquire this thing. I think this would qualify and do well under FCT funding, Florida Communities Trust funding. That's obviously dependent on funding, but you can buy and get, paid back, within 2 years. So you have 2 years after you close to try to get reimbursed through FCT. So that gives us enough time with the hopes that the economy gets better, that FCT will continue to be funded by the state. And so, you know, obviously ACT as an organization doesn't necessarily want to be the one owning and managing this, but we are definitely willing to help facilitate and try to make this, you know, stay in place, because I think it really is an important asset to the community. And I think it can be something that sort of ensures it stays the way it is, and maybe not have an outcome that we'd all regret, you know, in 10 or 15 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm going to close the floor for any more further questions, and just go to the group to see if there's if somebody wants to make a motion on this property. Brian?
I'd like to move that we place the Santa Fe River Wood property on the eligibility pool as a bargain share, explicitly stating that any value attributed to the business would not be coming out of county funds. That would have to be covered by High Springs. I don't have any stipulations on what percentage of the fee ownership of the property, including the home or the business, not the business, but the structure that is functioning as the business. I don't put any stipulations on that. So Santa Fe River Wood property on the eligibility pool as a bargain share project.
I second.
We have a motion Brian has presented with Susan seconding. Do we have any further discussion on the motion that is on the floor? Paul?
I don't see why the value of the building should not be excluded also in this, because if it's part of the business, what's the purpose of the building if it's not part of the business? So I think, and then it was stated that land was bought right near there. Recently. I think the price of that land that was bought would be a guide as to how much we should be willing to pay in this. And the other thing is, like, the river is like 100 miles long, and if we protected like 15 inches of it, what's going to happen to the other big part of it? So I don't think it's money well spent.
Thank you, Paul. Jason, did I see your hand up? Thank you.
I also think that putting, I have a couple questions. I always have to be reminded of this. Placing on the eligibility pool does not mean we move forward. We have to do another vote. There could be the potential that we put on the eligibility pool if it frees up staff to do additional work and sort of conversations with this property in lieu of us going full forward onto the priority pool. Once it's on the priority pool, it's out of the board's hands. So I do think that you know, voting it on the eligibility pool and then shelving it, not shelving it, but sort of freezing it. Again, staff needs to remind me a little bit of the consequences of that, but I do think that's an option before we go full and make a full decision. Because that could get ACT and some of the other entities a little bit more time to flesh this out. Because I think I'm usually the one more in the camp you're talking about than any of this, but there is a value to all the stuff people have talked about. So if we're chipping in $150,000 of the program because there's an SCD grant, because High Springs is putting forth money, this makes it way easier for me to make the decision. If we're putting in, you know, $300,000 or $291,000, I'm uncomfortable with that. So I just think we need to have a little more time.
Thank you, Jason.
I like Jason. I agree with Jason.
Thank you, Amanda. Dwayne?
I think since the owner is already like online and they feel that they wanted to go this way, it seems like they have the power of saying, hey, we'd rather for y'all to have the land for the easement, and then we'll just sell the business part of it. To me, you know, if that was something that they was willing to do, to say, hey, you know, we'll make sure that the land is protected and we'll sell the business aspect. And I know, you know, I know many probably investors you know, it'd probably be harder to sell, but at the same time, it'll be protected. I know High Springs right now is an area that is being brought up like wildfire. And I understand, you know, they coming around because, like I say, I do understand the nature that it's an investor in town and he buying up everything. But, I think if the owners was concerned, it's more that they can do to make sure that the land get protected.
Thank you, Dwayne. Is there any more, discussion on the, motion on the floor, which has been seconded?
Well, I'll just say, I mean, I like the motion, and I'm glad that there aren't a whole lot of strings attached here, because I think there's so many questions here, and so much more information, you know, like, just a lot of additional information to be made. So this kind of middling approach of keeping it alive and gathering more information, this seems to satisfy that.
Thank you, Susan. Brian, I'm gonna have you read that motion one more time before we take a vote.
More succinctly this time, Santa Fe River Wood property, I nominate for the eligibility pool in fee acquisition as a bargain share.
Thank you.
Can I address Jason's question about what staff actions?
You go ahead.
Okay.
Andy.
So if the property, and Sandy, feel free to correct me if I don't state this well, but if the property is on the eligibility pool, you can direct staff to pursue additional information, or you can do that even without it being on the eligibility pool, and bring it back to another later meeting. Whereas, as you said, if it goes onto the priority pool, then from there it sort of has a life of its own, and it will move forward independently.
Thank you. I call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'm opposed.
I'm opposed.
Let's get the individual nays.
My person call or something. You got all them.
All those in favor raise their hand.
Well, some people don't have video. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Folks online could type yes in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got that?
I mean, it's everyone but Paul and.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
And opposed, like sign? Paul and Dwayne. Motion carries.
I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to put this on the priority pool too, but before I do, I want to just make a couple statements. The aspects of how you attribute value to the building and the business and the assets of the business, that is to be handled during negotiations and as a consequence of the appraisals. It's really not the LCB's charge. The permutations of how this deal might come to fruition, also clearly part of the appraisal and negotiation process. Really not something that we should get caught in the weeds on.
Why we shouldn't approve this.
I don't see any information that we might get, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that might shed more light on this and that would be of value in the decision about whether or not this should move forward and get it appraised. I would make one comment. The appraisal that would have to be procured by either the city or the county, because they could not use the landowner's appraisal, we would not be able to even pay for the appraisal of the business. That would have to be on High Springs. It's just peanuts in the grand scheme of things, but that's the only other point I'd like to make. Other than one last final one, I understand what people are thinking when they think a conservation easement might work here, but I'm going to remind everybody the value of a conservation easement is the difference between the unrestricted full development value of the property based on the highest and best use versus what the value is valued at once the restrictions are put in place. And those restrictions are by and large the development value, the development potential under its current land use and zoning. It's an extraordinary presumption to think about, well, they could put a hotel on it. No, you couldn't do a hotel on it under its current land use and zoning. So in that scenario, on a 2.41 acre piece of property that already has the one structure on it that it would be allowed per code, and correct me if I'm wrong, there would not be any substantial value for a conservation easement. That doesn't mean that you couldn't put a conservation easement on it once you acquire the fee to protect it, which would be very similar to what we do when we put properties on the Registry of Protected Public Places. But as part of a negotiation with the landowner, a conservation easement does not give us any leverage. It just doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we put the Santa Fe River Wood property on the priority pool as a bargain share fee acquisition. And whether it's the City of High Springs, FCT, the State of Florida Water Management District as a partner, I don't care. I would like it to be High Springs, but for the purposes of the motion, it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Brian. We have a motion on the floor to put the Santa Fe Wood property to the priority pool, subject to bargain share. Did I state that correctly?
Yep.
Yep, thank you. Do we have a second on that
second.
motion? Susan seconded that motion. Thank you. Do we have further discussion on the motion?
I disagree with Ryan's comment about not being able to get more information and anything changing. This seems like this could change dramatically based on different partners coming in, and I think it would make it dramatically more palatable to me if we waited. I don't know why you have to go through with this right now to push it through. What's gonna change if we, next meeting, if we wait? I mean, I don't think it hurts anything to go into this with a little bit of a caution. So that, I would actually like it to have this be a unanimous vote in the end. It may never be, but there may be more information coming forward from other sources, other partners, so that this comes through, because we're doing something we've never done. I would like it to be something that's not controversial.
I don't disagree with that. I would say it sounds to me like you're interested in finding out what other potential funding sources could be applied to this to defray the county's cost.
Like I said, I am uncomfortable with $291,000. I'm more comfortable with something smaller than that.
I don't disagree with that.
Thank you, Jason.
Question, so maybe I'll ask the motioner. I think I heard you say that almost like the funding sources and the negotiation or whatever are somewhat beyond the purview of this board today,
Yes.
tonight. And I think I agree with you. So I think that's where I'm sort of looking at it from, because yes, there's a lot of information and everything like it, but really all that negotiation stuff's supposed to be done by staff and
Right.
then approved by the Board of County Commissioners.
Yep.
I don't see it as negotiations, I see it as new partners.
Dwayne, you were...
Yeah, I was just kind of gonna piggyback off Jason. Like, because this is something new, and I'm just saying this might be something to think of, and like we all said, we'll have no financial part of it, but what happens when, because of the economy, because of everything going on, that this become a trend, and are there consequences when we know and people say, well, you brought this property? I just look at it in that perspective, because the same owner that brought this adjacent property, even though he probably brought it less, he will come back when you just brought this property for $500,000. Why not buy my property for $500,000?
Precedent.
Yeah. So
at the end of the day, the appraisals dictate what we can pay.
Anybody online have any questions on the motion that's on the floor?
I have one quick question. If we, let's say nays have it on the priority, does it go back to the eligibility?
Yes.
On there, yep.
It's there, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
With seeing no more questions from the group, I call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 Yeah, we need a priority roll call, so.
We're gonna take a roll call here. The nays right now are
You have hands up for nays?
nay.
It's nays, keep them.
Okay,
Raise your hand, or if you're not on camera, type yes in the chat.
all right. So
Or type no in the chat.
Brett,
Paul, Dwayne, Ed,
Wes.
Jason, Brett, Wes, Amanda. Okay. So I have for nays, I have Russ, Paul, Dwayne, Ed, Jason, Brett, Amanda, Wes. Did I miss anybody? Okay.
So the nays
Taser.
have it.
Yep.
Thank you. Motion does not carry. Thank you.
So I guess that leaves staff, with,
Getting some information.
yep.
I have a question. Did BJ drop off?
Oh, yeah, where is he?
He said he's trying to get back on. I thought he did get back on. He just texted me.
So I just need to know who was the ayes? Who said yes?
The I was Brian, Susan, and Bruce. Is that correct, Bruce?
Another one.
Yes.
Yeah. And then maybe we don't know BJ.
He just said he just reviewed his computer.
Okay, he's back, all right. So I don't know if he heard the motion.
BJ, did you hear the motion?
He's connecting. Now he's in.
Hey, BJ, did you hear the motion?
I'm sorry, one more time, I just got back on.
It was the same motion as for the, eligibility pool, but to put it on the priority pool. Everybody's cast their vote except you.
All right, can I get a little bit of clarification though, but I mean, can we define bargain, you know, what do you call it, bargain share?
Bargain share.
Well, as,
The vote was called.
The vote was called.
yes, yeah.
Doesn't matter. I don't
He
know.
was out. He was out. The vote was called. Yeah.
His
Yeah,
vote
that's fine.
wouldn't change.
Yeah, go ahead, proceed.
All right, thank you.
People use the bathroom.
Right.
Okay.
Moving on to the, Watermelon Pond, property.
Okay. I'm a little concerned.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
This is extremely difficult, folks. This is,
This is a unicorn.
this is,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
Yeah.
This hybrid method is challenging. It's working on me.
I'm a little concerned that we'll have the same audio problem again. So I'll share the screen and go through the presentation, and if we lose people, I'll just immediately redial on the phone. That's, unless anyone has other ideas.
Excuse me.
All right, okay, sorry. Okay. Sorry. Wearing on me too, Russ. All right, try this again. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, the next property that we have is the Watermelon Pond, Alabin and Anderson property. This is a bit more traditional, but is slightly different, as well, and I'll get into that. So, this is in the Watermelon Pond, strategic ecosystem, and it's, that project area, that ecosystem has a 7.47 out of 9.44 score. This particular property, scored a 6.67 out of 10. It's one parcel under one ownership, 98 acres in size. There are 0 buildings on the property. So the landowners are intending to build a small structure on one side of the property at present. The property has a just value of $294,000 or $3,000 an acre, and lacking in buildings at present. It has a total value of $294,000 or $3,000 an acre. There is not currently an asking price, so So these landowners approached the program with an interest in pursuing conservation options for their property, but they are not actively trying to sell the property at this time. They're looking towards future conservation options, and that could be a fee simple purchase, that could be a conservation easement, or it could be even something else potentially. And so we went ahead and decided to go ahead and evaluate the property because of its nomination, its location, and the habitat type, as well as the importance of potential future preservation of the property, but it's not an immediate action in this case. So the property is one long rectangular parcel, and it is immediately adjacent to the Watermelon Pond WEA, Wildlife Environmental Area, managed by FWC. It's north and west of the Alachua County Forever components of Watermelon Pond Preserve. They're also part of that Watermelon Pond project area. You can see that the FWC property, the WEA, kind of hooks around on the top, and its one westernmost boundary there is the boundary of the Alabin and Anderson property. It's on the south boundary of the city of Newberry, and it's approaching the western boundary of Alachua County. I don't know if that's someone trying to join the... I don't think I can let people in while I'm doing this, so. So here is a parcel map. This parcel map, the aerial photo is a 2019 aerial photo, and actually the aerial view of the property at this point is slightly different because the landowners have initiated restoration on the property through the removal of successional hardwoods that have been encroaching. It is a sandhill property, and so they've already initiated some restoration work there. To the north is pine plantation. It's fairly dense. To the south is low-density residential development. And then obviously across County Road 337, it's agricultural, as you see on the aerial photo. Zooming out a little bit to the parcel ownership, you can see that, again, that sort of light see-through green is the Watermelon Pond WEA, and the owners to the north are Whitehurst Cattle Corporation. And then to the south, it's a puzzle of different individual private landowners. Soil type, Cambler fine sand to Varies fine sand, basically excessively drained and well-drained soils. There are no wetlands mapped on the property, and the soils reflect that. So at the time of the site visit for the evaluation, we did meet the landowners on site, and so they were able to give us some of the background information of what we were seeing. Again, they had recently completed this removal of the successional hardwoods on site and really opened up the property. But it was so recently that I think we're not able to fully see the benefit to be yielded by their removal of those hardwoods in terms of stimulation of the ground cover. We did find longleaf pine seedlings, wiregrass, piney woods drop seed, a lot of the different components you would expect to see, but they were interspersed with a little bit of soil disturbance, more superficial soil disturbance from the operation of the equipment used to remove the hardwoods. And then also, obviously, the effects of a couple decades of suppression. However, with the removal of those hardwoods, you can see, just looking through sort of the view in the foreground of this picture, that there is pretty reasonably contiguous small ground cover plants. So it's not just all open sand, and it's not just hardwood leaf litter. I think with the release from competition, and then hopefully The landowners are also pursuing application of prescribed fire and additional planting of longleaf pine seedlings. There will be a real sort of stimulation of that traditional sandhill view that you would expect to see on a site like this. There are quite a few turkey oak, basically saplings. They're root sprouts from the hardwood removal, and those are widespread on the property. Those will be managed with fire as the landowners progress with their restoration goals. Again, another view, so there's a undeveloped sort of service road through the property that is utilized for management access. And this view is looking out to County Road 337, and you can see the agricultural property kind of in the background beyond the trees. That's the neighbor. Again, we did find widespread appropriate ground cover plants, just not a carpet of them, and I think that's because of the suppression. There are quite a few gopher tortoise burrows on the property, and in fact, this property prior to the purchase by Ms. Anderson and Mr. Alabin was actually slated to be developed as a development named the Preserve at Tortoise Hill. So it, for quite a while, has had, I think, a good population of gopher tortoises on site, and thankfully, it is no longer slated to be developed. Originally, it was slated to have a 19-unit development on site prior to the current landowner's acquisition. There are two sinkholes that I believe are really one sinkhole that just haven't merged yet in the center of the property. And if we look, sorry for the quick clicking, if we look at the aerial photo, this center point where you see sort of more concentrated hardwoods, that's the location of those two sinkholes. Also, while we're on this image, if you look on the east side of the property, you can see there's a slightly different signature. Bigger canopy, those are live oaks and some larger laurel oaks. This portion of the property, which is approximately 20 acres, was cleared in the 1938 aerial photos. So at that point, it had some sort of apparently agricultural use just on that east side. The rest of the property never was cleared through the course of the various aerial photos that I was able to look at. But as a result of that clearing, that easternmost 20 acres does have a little bit more pasture grass in the ground cover than the rest of the property. And it does have a little bit more hardwood cover as well than the rest of the property. Okay, apologize for the quick clicking. The sinkholes, and then again, so this is that eastern portion of the property, and you can see the ground cover here is, I think maybe you can see already that it's just a little bit less diverse in its appearance, which does mean a little bit less diverse in its range of species. That is the boundary with the Watermelon Pond Wildlife Environmental Area. That's the FWC property, which is being maintained in early successional habitat, like very early successional habitat condition. That property is currently open to the public. So that land is contiguous going over to 250th Street, which is the street that goes to the Watermelon Pond boat ramp, and it's the same street that the ACF Watermelon Pond Preserve Metzger Tract, the Burrowing Owl Tract, is located on. FWC does have public access points on County Road 337, the road that this property faces, as well as on the other side of their property on 250th Street. So there's established public access kind of very near this property. Oh, and that was the last slide. We did not note a significant number of non-native invasive plants on the property. There's some scattered tropical soda apple, a couple small like camphor seedlings. We did not see mature camphors, at least one or two Chinese tallow trees. We did see a range of wildlife while we were on site, primarily like birds, basically overwintering warblers and a mix of other birds in a feeding flock that passed through. The neighboring property to the north that landowner does have record of Sherman fox squirrels on their property, although their property now is so dense, I think that if they're there, maybe they're moving onto the Alabin and Anderson property. And Ms. Anderson and Mr. Alabin are, they're not local, and so they are coming up on regular intervals to try and continue with their restoration work on the property. So they're actively working there, but they're not there consistently enough to probably have contributed more species records that you would expect with this particular site from an involved landowner. I think cultural site-wise, there were no documented cultural sites on the property, no real solid waste with the exception of a couple buckets. There were a few cross fences that would indicate some previous cattle grazing on the property, though again, the majority of the ground cover is native, so it was not improved pasture. With that, I will give it to you, Russ, for any questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you for the good presentation. Thank you. Let's see here. We'll go around the group with some questions.
Should we see if someone could talk to us?
Oh, we're going to assume that you all can talk to us.
Somebody who's got their mic on, say something.
Hello, can you hear us?
Hello. Hello.
That's great, that's great. Technology is wonderful. All right, moving on here. Amanda, do you have a question?
Nada. Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Very, very good. Thank you, Amanda. Bruce?
No questions.
Thank you. BJ?
Yeah, real quick, seeing the WEA to the, what is that, to the east, I mean, that looks like it was all just former pasture. Are there gopher tortoises there? I mean, could this property serve as a potential GT donor site to, you know, to reestablish populations over there as well?
So there are gopher tortoises there. You know, I think on both of the properties, there's evidence of the suite of fossorial animals that you would expect to see in a sandhill site from the surface. You see the varying size and patterns of the mounds, but I was able, we did walk up to the gate and look over, and I was able to observe tortoise burrows there, but I don't have a clear sense of the density on the other site.
Okay, all right, but I mean, the landowner is willing to either fee simple or conservation easement, and they're plowing ahead with doing burns and everything that would be exactly what the county would be wanting to do, right?
Right, so they're interested in future acquisition, or rather preservation options. For right now, they're happy doing the restoration work, but our thought was, because of the location and type of habitat here, that because they're interested in engaging with the program at this point, that it might be good to consider evaluating the property and putting it in position for future action.
Okay, and then lastly, are they intending to maybe retire on the property? So
they have not expressed that, though they are also on the Zoom, and so we can certainly give them an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
All right. Let us ask our questions. Thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Or no, that was BJ, excuse me.
Yeah,
Brett.
I'm done.
Brett?
You're up, Brett.
You there, Brett?
Doesn't look like it.
We
I'm
lose
free
him?
to stop sharing, so, because we can hear them.
Okay, Wesley?
Yeah, I don't really have any questions. I'm just playing around on maps, looking at it right now. It looks like good uphill habitat.
Very good. Thank you so much, Wesley. Brian?
been on the property under its previous ownership. When we got FWC involved with the property that they own, which they acquired with gopher tortoise mitigation funds, they expressed interest in this property as well. It wasn't available back then, but I was, with permission, able to tour the site. Considered it above average to very good sandhill habitat that clearly needed to be burned. I remember there being like 30 gopher tortoise burrows on it, one of which contained a coach whip snake that went in there, and so I got all excited. I remember that distinctly. I think the property is very suitable for the program, but I think FWC would be the more natural acquisition agent, or at least manager, given that they own the property adjacent and to the east, and there isn't anything that's managed by the county that's adjacent or near adjacent. But if FWC didn't have funds, I would like for the county to get it and maybe one day transfer it to FWC, at least for management.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Dwayne?
Well,
Yeah, I don't have it.
No, thank you. Susan?
Oh, just more comments. I think, what I've seen, I've not been on the property, but, two things that, a precious piece of sandhill in that part of the county, I think is a great opportunity. So I think it's an excellent fit that way in terms of mission and conservation value. And also that the fact that we've got landowners who've already instituted restoration as a land use and seem to have a very compatible land use, even future land use goal that is compatible with the program. I think it's a great fit.
Thank you, Susan. Ed?
No questions.
Paul?
What do people have against turkey oaks, I guess is one question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
What do people have against turkey oaks? Aren't they native here?
Sure are.
And, but other than that, question, I think that soil type and that location is precious. I think it's gonna disappear fast. It's disappearing already fast. So I think it's a no-brainer. We gotta get that one.
Jason?
You had a question. I wasn't sure if I was gonna get answered.
Oh,
What do people have against turkey oaks? Hypoxylon, maybe?
They're definitely appropriate to the site, but it's the density and size. So reducing the stature and then kind of keeping them on site, which they weren't all cut from the site, but they had,
Yeah, they won't disappear.
right. So they would still be producing
You knock
mass.
it back and you start a burn regime and it keeps it
Yeah.
thin, as opposed to a canopy of turkey oaks, which will shade out all the ground cover. It gets thick. They get.
You do. Jason, did you have any?
Yeah, real quick, I'm still confused exactly what we're buying and what we're doing. You said that they were exploring options and we're about to vote on something, so I guess the question for me is, if I knew that they were, this may be a no-brainer either way, but, it seems like if they're going to retire there or something like that, it would be perfect for a conservation easement. But we're just sort of moving forward without really understanding what we're actually doing.
So, essentially, that's a very good question. Essentially, they are not ready to not own the property at this point. They are not intending to retire there, at least at present. However, they are wanting to conserve the property long-term. If the LCB chose to place the property into the eligibility pool or the priority pool, it would establish the foundation for future action in that regard. And essentially, that's what you're doing, is establishing a foundation for future action, but not for, an immediate, we would not be immediately pursuing purchase of this because they are not yet ready to.
Have we ever done that before?
I don't know how that works.
I'm not aware of that. I don't know if Sandy
No.
is still here.
That brings up a big question. If we put it on the priority pool and then they sell it to someone else, does that nullify the priority pool, or does it
Yep.
change?
No, it doesn't nullify anything. Many of the properties that are on the priority pool, take the Warney property that was put on the priority pool back in, I think, help me out here, I think it was about 2003. And Mr. Warney was not interested. It stayed on the acquisition list. And when Mr. Warney and his wife decided, you know, we're ready, and they actually ended up donating the property to the program, and they're giving it to us. But it was on the priority pool, or not, I keep saying priority pool. It was on the active acquisition list for 17 years or so. When these properties come back up, we go out there and we make sure that they're substantially unchanged, or if they are changed, they're changed for the better. So, you know, things loiter on the acquisition list sometimes for years. We're working on the Lundgren property on the Santa Fe River. That was one of the real early properties that it looks like they decided to donate it to the program. And we're hoping to close on that within the next month or so. So
my only thought would be of trying to, and this is, you know, just say if the Whitehurst folks decided to do the Villages North, would that change my thoughts on this property? And I don't know if it would or not. There is low density development below it that kind of mucks it up a little. So you've got this pinnacle coming out, surrounded by stuff that's maybe not going to be great. And I'm a little leery about throwing it on there and then waiting for, like, not being able to revisit it. And again, it's almost the point where I don't care, because I think it's really valuable. It's really nice property. I just am, I guess, a little leery, because I just didn't understand what we were doing.
And I am not probably explaining it super well. So the Warney property that Sandy just mentioned,
right,
is this right here.
Okay.
So that's kind of an example, I think, of what we're trying to set a possible foundation for. So it's adjacent to properties that we own and the Ashton biological station.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit nestled a little bit better than.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if it's really, if it's big enough and it's nice enough. I'm not sure if it matters. Again, it's one of those things that I'm like, okay, well, it's a little weird making a decision on something that we know is going to be a while down the road. But again, I won't stop. I won't try to. I'll probably go for it anyway.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Brett, I don't think we hit you up on a question, did we? You back, Brett? No, Brett? All right. No, Brett. Myself, it is a, you know, there again, small tracks. We're going to certainly see a lot of these over the years, and they have their place. They can be certainly a challenge. It does have that good connectivity, at least, to the significant conservation property. I don't necessarily lean towards a fee simple purchase of it. I look at a conservation easement, and it looks like I'm not going to say the heavy lifting has been done, but it looks like maybe the track was fuel wooded, and what we have left is the residuals coming up. Now the really hard work steps up with the either burning and perhaps herbicides or whatever it is to control what you want to not have there, and still preserving what you want. Certainly becomes a challenging to work with a small track, and it is somewhat out of the way, but not all out of the way. It may not be that bad of a situation, but I lean towards a conservation easement with the property. That's the end of my comments. Thank you. With that, the floor is open for any further discussion?
Well, I'd like to move to place, I can do that, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Move to place the, Alaban and Anderson property on the eligibility pool.
Second.
Who is that?
Placing it, to-
Susan and Jason
placing it to do what?
on the eligibility.
Oh,
board.
for, acquisition via fee or conservation easement.
Fee or conservation?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that, I like the idea of, keeping it open. I mean, the folks,
I understand, right.
you
Okay,
know,
very good.
I mean, and
Thank you.
staff
thank
will
you,
do their
Susan.
job.
And Jason, did you second that?
I did, I had a question for staff to clarify. Does it matter on the eligibility pool if we say fee or less than fee?
You can specify whatever you feel you
Okay,
should
I'm just curious,
specify.
because it seems like it's more important when you go to the next step, but I understand. Usually I don't remember, never mind.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor, by putting the property, on the eligibility pool as a fee or conservation easement, transaction. No more further discussion, we'll call a vote. All those,
I'm sorry. Never mind.
Is there
seeing
any
no more-
public discussion, or do the owners want to talk to the
Yes.
motion?
Thank you, these masks make my brain go weird.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we'd
So-
love to hear from you.
So, hopefully you can hear Susan and I. I'm Mark. So what we're really interested in with the property is to try to restore the longleaf pine ecosystem. Originally, seems like almost a year ago, I spent some time with Kevin Ratcliffe asking what kind of options were available in Florida for the conservation of land. We moved here about 10 years ago from Connecticut, and in Connecticut, they have something called the Public Act 490 that allows classification of land to either be forest or open space. They don't really have that here in Florida. So we've worked with the county to get the land classified in Timber 2, where we'll basically replant longleaf pine and that longleaf pine ecosystem going forward. We spent time with Sean O'Neill and Joe Vaughn, along with Andy, getting their ideas on what we can do with the property. We talked a little bit before about why were the turkey oaks removed. Well, the turkey oaks at times will take up the sunshine and space that prevent the longleaf pines from growing. There's usually kind of a biological warfare between the oaks and the longleaf pine as to who's going to dominate the ecosystem. We don't have any plans to retire on the land at this time. We think that, basically we've started a 50-year restoration project. We don't believe that we're going to be around here for 50 years. So we'd like to work with your organization to have options in the future when we do restore the land to that longleaf pine ecosystem, that it could be kept in that kind of forever. And we like the connection to the wildlife management area next door so that animals can have kind of a free flow between our property and the county property.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your endeavors, and it's certainly commendable. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second, and we've had discussion. We're going to call a vote. All those in favor of the motion to put the property, the priority pool. Eligibility pool, thank you. Eligibility pool subject to either fee simple or a conservation purchase, easement purchase. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to put the Alaban and Anderson property on the priority pool, for acquisition of fee or conservation easement.
I second it.
We have a motion on the floor for putting the property on the priority pool, either as a fee purchase or conservation easement, and it has been seconded by Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
There's a lag.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Sorry, my dog liked the idea of it too.
The dog votes yes.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
So, I am going to stop sharing my screen. Well, actually, no, the next one is me too.
Yes.
Okay.
No rest.
So I won't stop sharing yet. Shall we wait for Ed to come back, or?
These are the desktop evaluations now
Yeah.
for these two particular properties.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Andy, I think we'll be fine.
okay.
Go slow.
Okay. Okay, so I will now present the first of our two desktop evaluations. This property, the first property is the Guertin, property located in what's referred to as the Gainesville Archipelago, which is currently the ACF project that a lot of the, non-contiguous properties around Gainesville end up being grouped into. It's a little bit different as the ACF project goes. As a result of that, it does not have a REPA score, and because it's a desktop evaluation, it does not have a project score. So this is the LCB's opportunity to direct staff whether or not we complete a full evaluation of the property. It's a 6.52 acre parcel. One parcel under one ownership. There's one house on the property, and unlike a lot of our desktops, I did actually go to this property because it's fairly near my house, so I have a couple photos of it as well that I'll get to, but it's an older house, and the just value is $62,595 or $9,600 an acre. The total value is $134,633 or $20,649 an acre. The asking price is $325,000 or $49,846 per acre. It was nominated to us as a fee simple acquisition. However, the property is for sale, and I'll show you where it is. That will probably help. So it's on Southwest 91st Street, just west of the interstate, south of Newberry Road. And so the property is for sale. So they have had some folks look at the property with different considerations in mind. And at least one of those people has communicated very basically with our office about, I'm interested in buying this property and I might want to pursue a conservation easement. So the landowner's communication with us is fee simple, but there could be a secondary landowner that could be interested in a conservation easement. The closest conservation land in the area is one of the ACF conservation easements, the Robertson Conservation Easement, and you can see that in the green to the left of the parcel. Zoom in a little bit more, and I did turn on the building footprint layer here so you can see what the sort of placement of structures around the property looks like. The house on the property is right there. You enter off 91st and you kind of wind up, come to the house. There's a sinkhole kind of at the front of the property, and then there's a sinkhole kind of behind the house as well.
Wow.
Good idea for your house, right?
And then there are, there's actually, it's interesting, that whole area has interesting remnant habitat. This would be the connection to the Robertson Conservation Easement, were the property to be acquired. There is actually sort of undeveloped connection that could be made there to that conservation easement. So that it's heavily infested with coral ardesia, and some other things, tuber, sword fern, camphor, a lot of the things you expect in these sort of hardwood hammock, upland hardwood forest sites in Gainesville. The back of the property looks like possibly might have previously been, mixed upland woodland, or upland mixed woodland rather, or possibly upland pine. It does slope up in the back of the property, but at present, it doesn't really resemble that habitat. You can see there's the house, and this is the back of the property abutting the neighborhood. So this is the farthest from the driveway on the west side of the property. So there's a neighborhood basically all along the back property line. And that's the Burton property. It does fall in with a handful of species in the FWC species modeling. And again, 2 sinkholes on site, and those sinkholes create the footprint of 0.6 acres that's in the 100-year floodplain.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for going out there. Thank you very much. I'm just going to open the floor up to everybody. I don't think this is necessarily something we should request further of the staff services to evaluate. I leave that up for anybody else to add to it.
I agree with that.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, this is not a fit.
Very, very, very good. Anybody online there want to say anything?
I agree. It's not.
Thank you.
I do as well.
Thank you.
I do.
Could somebody make a motion just so that we get that in our minutes, that you guys are not interested in doing an evaluation on this property? And staff doing an evaluation?
We have to move not to do something?
No.
It would help us in these cases because we're doing a desktop, to have it in the minutes as a motion that you don't wish to go forward with this property and a full evaluation.
I'd like to make a motion that we do not move forward with the Griffin property.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second not to move forward. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right.
Did that before?
Okay, now comes the tricky part, maybe. So I am going to stop screen sharing. This is where we lost sound last time. Can someone talk and see if we can still hear the Zoomers?
Hello?
Hey, it worked this time. So, Ryan is going to present the next property, and, Ryan, hopefully you can just take control. Yep, okay.
You control your screen. We control the vertical, we control the horizontal.
You want to attempt to adjust it?
Oh, there it is.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So here. All happening very slowly on my end for some reason. There we go. Okay, so I have the second desktop evaluation. This is the Austin Carey Flatwoods Meyer property. Like Andy said, this did not get a project score since it was just desktop, and it is also just outside of the actual Austin Carey Flatwoods area, so it does not have a REPA score. The size of the property is 18.5 acres. It's just one parcel, one ownership. There are 3 buildings on site. There's a mobile home that was put on in 1994, a concrete block house from 1965, and a small cottage from 1970, and I'll show you where those are on a map in a minute. And just for your knowledge, it appears based on my conversations with the current trustee of the property that none of those homes are inhabitable. The just value is $28,650 or $1,549 per acre. Total value of $95,165 or $5,144 per acre. If the property is not on the market yet, it will be very soon, and they have an asking price of $180,000 or $9,729 excuse me, per acre. And they are looking for fee simple. They are not interested in a conservation. So here is the Meyer parcel. You can see it's very close to, well, it's across the street on State Road 26 east of town, across from the Noonan's Lake Conservation Area, the Hatchet Creek tract, and the newly acquired Parcel E tract, directly across the street there. And just to zoom in here, here's a parcel map. You can see St. John's and now us across the street. There's some Weyerhaeuser and private timberlands to the east and southeast. Several individual residential parcels immediately west and south. And then this nursery, this is Hatchet Creek Farms Nursery to the southwest. And I also have those building footprints here, so you can see the mobile home and concrete block house and cottage. The other thing that's of note of this property, and all of my knowledge on this property is based off of basically these aerial images, and I did speak with Mr. Robert Titus, who's the trustee. This property was owned by his aunt, and she passed away some number of years ago, so he is the trustee, and the family's looking to sell the property. So none of the homes are currently livable in. There's 2 wells and 2 septic systems associated with them. And this sort of footprint you can see here is actually a cell phone tower. Mr. Titus said that it takes up about an acre in size, its footprint. It doesn't quite look that big here. And then there's also this access road that has a 50-foot wide easement to get to the tower from State Road 26. There's also you can't really see it on this map, but there's a public road that comes off of 26 to access these homes, and it cuts through a small corner of the Meyer parcel to get back to these parcels. So there would be also a public road access points through a small portion of the property. Based on historical aerial images, the 1938 imagery shows hardly any canopy cover, very, very much an open system. And then basically for the next several decades of images, it's been cleared of what little trees there were there and put into pasture. And then by the time our 1995 imagery comes back, it's a completely closed canopy system. Mr. Titus said that there were longleaf that grew back in these uplands here in sort of the southern portion of the parcel, but all the longleaf were harvested some number of years ago, so now it is mostly just successional hardwoods. There's this wetland feature here that is mostly on this Weyerhaeuser property, but about 2 to 2.5 acres does stretch out onto the Meyer property in this northeast corner. The last map I have here is just to show what kind of potential connections this could make. So obviously there's the kind of 2 separate at this point Noonan's Lake Conservation Area tracts and now our owned Parcel E. So potentially this, Weyerhaeuser and this private timberland, should that be acquired or even just stayed undeveloped, there could be this sort of loop over to the rest of Noonan's Lake. Obviously it gets bottlenecked here between Hatchet Creek Farms and then the Strawn Blueberry Farms here. But that seems to be what would be the conservation corridor. The only other couple of quick things I'll mention are there were no FNA element occurrences that came up on site. No archaeological sites came up within the parcel. It did come up with 6 FWC species models, or the species model showed 6 species that could occur here. So there's some potential, but that's about all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Open the floor for discussion on this property.
I would like, do they have any better pictures or locations with the map? Or no?
I think the first one was good.
For back to that very first, picture there,
This one?
No. Zoom in.
This one?
That's better.
That's probably the best we got.
Yeah, zoom in.
You can't.
zoom in?
You can't. That's it.
Oh, that's it.
That's what you get with a desktop.
Where are all those buildings to the south?
So immediately to the west here and to the south, these are individual private residences. This cluster is part of that nursery, that Hatchet Creek Farms nursery.
Ah.
I don't think I would go for this.
You said the buildings, Kevin, were just all abandoned, or they're just all broken down?
Not habitable, he said.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not in a livable condition.
I think it's a nice, kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Could be a good location.
I mean, it's kind of connected on three sides, but then on a little bit, but at the bottom, no.
Yeah. I feel like if we bought Weyerhaeuser or we acquired this too, I still wouldn't really be that excited about it. But I mean, I could live without it too, with that.
Y'all have any comment there online?
This is BJ. I probably would not be in favor with this. I mean, you're going to have to deal with the homes. You've got access roads coming across the property, poor connectivity all through the south. It just does not, and it's 8 acres. So I would not support this.
18 and a half acres, but.
Oh, it's not equivalent.
Should I, maybe I move to not move forward, to instruct staff not to move forward with this project?
Putting that
Second.
into a form.
Well, if that was.
Yes, I think that's
the trend.
appropriate. Yeah.
Was that BJ second?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor not to move forward with this, property, for any further evaluation. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Alrighty then.
Old business.
Bing, bing.
All right, so Charlie are you ready, Charlie?
I'm ready, Andy.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, as you may recall, this is a 93-acre property that is on the east side of Parcel E, what we now refer to as the Bee Tree Creek Preserve. The Garcia property is primarily pasture. It's got about 88 acres of pasture. There is a single-family residence on the property. There's about an acre or 3 acres of wetland on the property, and I think the remnants of an old grove. I spoke with Mr. Garcia back in late September, right at the end of September, and they were interested in selling the property, but they needed to move quickly because of some financial concerns on their part. However, if they were to sell the property, Mr. Garcia said that, again, due to family considerations, they would need to retain a life estate through his grandson's life. So when I put all of the factors together, this just did not appear to be a piece of property that would be suitable for acquisition under Alachua County forever.
Thank you for the further investigation, Charlie. We appreciate that very much. And so with that, if I'm not mistaken here, Sandy, we need to have a motion not to move forward with any further action on this property?
Or do we
Actually,
want to motion?
no,
This property, we already did a full evaluation on, and
Oh,
it
you
was
did a
in
full,
the
that's right, okay.
eligibility pool. So it just stays in the eligibility pool unless
Stays
you
in the eligibility
move it
pool.
forward.
Okay, so we don't have to do a motion on that, we just leave it as it stands.
It just sits there and
Correct.
decomposes.
Okay, thank you.
And if the situation changes with the ownership or with the property, there would be a possibility of bringing it back in the future.
Very good. Thank you. Staff updates. Acquisitions.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So, we had 2 great closings at the end of the year. Those were the Padgett property on Lake Santa Fe. I'm sorry, on Lake Alto in the Lake Santa Fe area. And the Austin Carey Parcel E property that we acquired from Weyerhaeuser. And as Charlie just mentioned, the proposed new name for it is Bee Tree property or Bee Tree Preserve. And just to give you the quick summary there, a Padgett property we closed on November 6th. And there's the final purchase price. We actually had a slight reduction in the purchase price as a result of the final surveyed acres. And then there's the final purchase price for the Weyerhaeuser property. I just want to take one quick second, if I may, since I have you all. And just as a reminder, I'm the conservation land negotiator, and a lot of times when you all are looking at the evaluations, like you're doing tonight for the first time you get a property, you are presented with helpful information like what the property appraiser's value is, the just valuation, and the total value. That is hardly ever what we get back in terms of appraised values for properties that we're looking at. And the appraisals that we obtain, we don't obtain those until well after you all make your decisions on moving forward with properties. And the Padgett property, for instance, this final purchase price ended up considerably below both of the appraisals we got. So I just want to remind you all that although it's helpful to have, a rough estimate or value of property when you're looking at it in the very beginning, it's usually not what we're going to end up at. And even if a property owner provides us an offer or a asking price at the outset, there's still a lot of work to be done before there's a meeting of the minds on price. So I just wanted to point that out to you as you move forward on other properties. Anyway, hope that gives you some perspective on the acquisition part that comes after you all make your decisions. So here's a quick map of the Padgett property that highlighted in the red pink area up here, adjacent to the Water Management District parcels. And you will see that there are a few, if we zoomed in, I don't have time to zoom in here, but if you zoomed in on the unshaded area in the middle of the Padgett property, those are small parcels that we're actively pursuing and trying to get them to come to you all for consideration. So hopefully we will accomplish that. And then to the south adjacent of the Padgett property is the Den property highlighted in the blue boundary, and I'll mention that in a minute. And then here's the Parcel E property, which you all have heard about, and maybe you all got to see the article in the Gainesville Sun that was based on Charlie's great press release, and so here it is, the fruition of what you all started. So congratulations. This is an important acquisition in this area of the county, and all of us myself and some of the other county staff, we've all been getting comments from different agencies that we have colleagues who work at different agencies saying how great this is. So this is exciting. And then real quick, negotiations ongoing. The DIN property I just mentioned to you, and that highlighted light blue, we do have an offer accepted. We have a contract ready to go. We are that close. We have some mineral rights that we're working on getting resolved. And once those get resolved, hopefully we will be moving on that one. The Carr family in the Bar Hammock area, we have offers tentatively accepted. We're working on contracts as we speak. As you all know, I mentioned to you before the Santa Fe River Ranch, which is the Hitchcock property on the Santa Fe River, which is upstream from the, it's well upstream from Campolino, where the river goes underground, and well upstream from the Canoe Outpost. But we've been working with the USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, on cost share program agreement. And we are still working on that. A lot of factors are going into considering the NRCS requirements and the property owner's desires. So that's still a work in progress. Also on the Santa Fe River, way upstream, closer toward Waldo, we're working with the Matthews family on a cattle conservation easement, as we call it, where they'd be allowed to continue to graze cattle on their property with some conditions. That is an offer has been tendered. We're working with the property owner on that. Another Santa Fe River project. This property is next to the Lundgren property, which I'll mention. But this is a conservation easement with allowing silviculture to continue to occur. We have a tentative offer accepted, but we've got a bit of a minor delay because the property is owned jointly by a husband and wife, there's now a divorce issue, and so the ownership of the property is having to get worked out. Then back toward the Alachua Creek area, the Alachua Creek Flatwoods, we're still working with the Brown family. That's going to be a fee simple purchase. The property owners have asked us to consider some minor revisions in the whole acquisition area, which we're working with them on. That will be a great acquisition because it includes important sections of Alachua Creek, and it's also in the strategic ecosystem, covers a lot of the strategic ecosystem overlay. Over in the Kanapaha region, we're still working with the Simmons family on a conservation easement, and on the Alachua Slough Flatwoods area, more Weyerhaeuser property. This is a big one. We call the property the Fox Pen Connector because it makes a connection between Fox Pen and the Alachua Slough. It's roughly 4,000 acres. We do have an offer accepted, and we've got a contract in the works. So stand by on that. Hopefully next month we'll have some good news on some progress there. Maps of the areas, that's the Din property. This is the Hitchcock Ranch property up towards the north, towards the top. You see the outline of the Santa Fe River. And then below you see Mill Creek Preserve. So you see how this conservation easement would form a great connection. This is the Santa Fe River up here at the top. As you see, this is the Brown property. This would be the conservation easement that would cover the Brown property, which would protect the wetlands as you see it here. That would be in the conservation easement deed, and allow some silviculture to occur. This is the Brown property down by the Lake Alachua that I mentioned. This is Alachua Creek flowing down right through the property. And as you see, we've got the strategic ecosystems overlay shown here, so you can see how that's real critical. The blue spring right here is Magnesia Springs. The areas that the property owners have asked us to actually take out is this little 5-acre horizontal piece right here, which has a trailer on it, and about a 4-acre section in this corner. So we're working with them to try to figure out how to do that. Again, the Brown property, the Fox Pen Connector property, whoops, going backwards, sorry. They want to do that. I'm all over the place. Wow, my computer's going crazy. All right. Well, anyway, there's the Fox Pen Connector. And so you can see Fox Pen at the top and then the Alachua Slough at the bottom, and that would just, that's the great connection there. So there's a lot. This would be pretty incredible. And land donations. Okay, so we have the Lundgren property, 232 acres approximately. This is the Lundgren family donating the property to the county with the conservation easement to ACT. And that is adjacent to the Brown conservation easement. So that's going to create a big swath of almost 900 acres right on the Santa Fe River. And this is way upstream, close to Waldo. Then the Watermelon Pond area, the Warney family, they're going through the process of donating 80 acres. And that is adjacent to Alachua County Forever King Track and the Ashton Biological Preserve conservation easement. And we also have, working with Florida DEP, we've been working with them to where they're going to actually, the state will purchase the Murphy property on Little Lake Santa Fe, 70 acres, and then the county has agreed to manage it. So that saves us acquisition dollars, and it's a great partnership with the DEP to protect some more property in the Lake Santa Fe area. That's the location of the Lundgren property, the red right up on the river. So you can see where that is in relation to some of our other properties. That's a zoom in of the Lundgren project. That map's actually a little bit outdated. We've had some changes, but the basic outline of that is correct. It also includes a parcel in Bradford County that will be managed by ACT. And that red parcel is the Murphy property on Little Lake Santa Fe. And that's a zoom in of the Murphy property. There's this huge, this area that looks like wetlands is actually sovereign submerged land. So that's actually part of the lake, which the state owns already anyway. So, and that has been a factor in what the ultimate purchase price ends up being. Anyway, that's it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you, Byron.
Very well done. Great progress. Things are moving along, and it looks like we got certainly more to go. So that's always good news. Thank you very much. With that comes other business. We have a next meeting date set at February 25th, 2021. And I believe it will be a hybrid meeting, which regrettably, and not my favorite thing, but that is what we will have. And so please set your schedules accordingly. Do we need to make a motion on that date, Sandy? That's set, isn't it? Sandy?
Sorry. Yeah, if that's just our fourth Thursday of the month.
Yeah, that's standard.
So,
Okay, very good. Thank you. With that, do we have any comments from the public on our anything regarding the meeting or anything else in particular? Of course, after public comment, we'll be hearing some other comments also. So we look forward to any additional public comment. Hearing none, from what I understand, about 20 years ago, a young gal came in here to be the program manager of the land conservation here in Alachua County, and still young, and we certainly appreciate everything she has done. And I think I'm going to open up the floor, Sandy, to some folks who would like to say some things. And before you give your parting comments, if we want to call it that, but I will have to say I have been impressed by all the minutia and detail that you have kept up with and have been able to keep us on track. For my short period of time on the board, I've been very impressed at everything you have done. Certainly, you have been a phenomenal asset to the program and to the county. Thank you for everything you've done. So with that, I going to open up the floor to folks who would like to say something. I wish you were here in person. We certainly do. But regrettably, this is the best we can do. But we certainly, if anybody else would like to make some sort of a comment, we certainly would love to hear from y'all.
Where'd she go?
She's here, just talk.
Here we go.
Go ahead, Daryl.
Daryl.
I would just like to say on my 10 years on the board, I guess I was there for about half of your career. I just always considered Sandy to be the heart and soul of the program. And for that, I just appreciate you beyond any words I could say. Thank you so much.
You're here.
Thank you.
I would second that.
I'm sorry. My name is Ann Barkdahl, and I was on the original LCB when Sandy first arrived, and we were all extremely new at this process. And I can remember walking around in the woods with Sandy and the group. And at that time we were in a drought. And every time we came to a wetland, Sandy would be like, she just couldn't really believe that these areas really were wetlands. And we've all come a long way and preserved some great property in that process. So Sandy, thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thanks,
and
Ann.
all the good times in the woods.
Yes, when you made us smell bear pee.
Oh. I forgot about that. Yep.
I'd like to say something. Sandy, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you and during my time on the LCB, which I enjoyed immensely, in large part due to you, working with you. Like Daryl said, I think you just did an incredible job leading the LCB, and just, your attention to detail and your sense of humor. You have such a great sense of humor. You're so nice to work with. It was just really a wonderful experience, and I wish you well in your retirement. And I also want to say I thoroughly enjoyed working with you during that summer. I worked with ACF, or with land conservation, in that little field job with Eric. And you were my boss, and you were awesome. You were such a great boss. So thank you. And thank you so much for all your years of wonderful service to EPD and all you've done for land conservation in the county.
Thank you.
Bruce.
Yes. I also want to say thank you to Sandy for all the help that you've done in the few years that I've been on the board. I'm sorry that we're not going to have you with us for the next phase of everything, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy whatever you're going to do now that you don't have to do this. But thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sandy, I've learned so much from you over the last couple of years that I've been on the board. Thank you. And when this is all over, I'm going to take you out to lunch. Oh, and that reminds me, we all have your county email address, but would you be, if you're comfortable, please share with us your contact information so we can stay in touch after you move on.
I will do so.
Thank you.
I'll add in, Sandy, having worked directly with you right down the hall for 6 years, and then being on this board for 6 years, I got to know you personally really well, and think you're an awesome person, very dedicated. Program is going to suffer a substantial loss with your leaving, and you're leaving some pretty big shoes to fill. I know these are hackneyed expressions, but they're totally true. And I also learned a bunch from you, and you better stay in touch.
Bye.
Wait.
Thank you.
But yeah, I already expressed, just a little time I've been here, how much, you helped me, and just the reminders and all the different things that you do, it just means so much. And I'm definitely gonna miss you. I love your personality. You're a good-hearted, good, warm person, and your personality, you definitely gonna be missed. So thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
Just to echo what everybody said, Sandy, thank you very much from me as well.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thanks.
So, to get it out, we got a gift for you.
Oh, no.
I feel like, my initial internship for grad school was actually was with the program before it started, when we were trying to figure out exactly how it was going to be structured and whatnot, and they had me calling all the different programs in Florida to try to figure out what you guys were doing. And I remember getting blown off by Ramesh initially, but then, it was just funny, having, you guys coming up here, and, you're the last, as far as I can remember, you're the last remnant of that original group that's still around. I wasn't on the board when it started, but I was definitely, I was there with a few of the crew that was with Ann, and was part of those meetings, which were way more contentious than the meetings we have now. But I think people that really, they truly like the environment, but they did not like each other. Well, I guess they tolerate each other, but it was interesting, some of the discussions that occurred. So, and I just really appreciate sort of your presence throughout all of us. It was always such a sort of a buffer with all the other personalities, that you were always sort of the easier to deal with. So I really appreciated that. And so we wanted, some of us pitched together, a few of the old folks, but we were doing this to represent the entire past and present LCB. We wanted to present you with a gift. So we got you this John Moran print, a new one that he did.
Aww. Wow.
Of Lake Santa Fe that he took during the Sahara dust storm when the light was last year. Everything was a little bizarre. So we all chipped in and got you this. It's got a little inscription card that says, "In recognition of your exemplary service and passion in protecting the wild spaces of Alachua County, from the current and past members of the Alachua County Land Conservation Board."
You guys are going to make me cry. That is beautiful. Thank you, you guys.
It's from everyone, but definitely like Bob Simons and Ann, and Daryl and Christine and other folks pitched in. And we just really, really appreciate you, and we thought this would be least something we could give you as a send-off. I'm sure you're getting stuff from staff, because everybody loves you. But here's it.
Well, thank you so much.
So
That's
thank you
beautiful.
so much. And I hope you have a wonderful retirement, whatever you end up doing. Hopefully traveling.
Sandy, I'll just say, you're not retiring, you're transitioning. That's what we like to say.
Wait a minute,
And
she's no longer an employee, she can be on the board now.
And you're gonna move on to different things, but I'm sure you have all sorts of plans, and but still will be involved, and I expect to see you on screen in the near future. So thank you so much for everything you've done for the county and for the program.
We'll make sure you get the photo.
Because that would be a horrible tease.
I'm going to take the inscription card off and put a new one on.
Well, I thank you so much. That was completely unexpected. And I wanted to say thank you to the LCB. Well, first I want to clarify something. Ramesh was the program manager for most of the program, and I became the program manager when he left. So I don't know how long it was, 4 or 5 years ago or something. But I just wanted to tell the LCB, you guys are one of the most fun and interesting parts of my job. I have loved working with you guys back from the days when we used to actually do field trips, and Kathy Cantwell was on our board, and she used to go in the woods. We'd go trailless in the woods, and she was, we'd have someone, we'd help her push her trail, and then she had these straps, and we'd just lift her over a log, and she'd go some more. So from those days to when we were having, 130,000 acres all of a sudden to evaluate, you guys, all the different iterations of the LCB, you guys have been rock solid. You're the heart of this program, really. Without you, you guys are the keepers of what actually is within the purview that we can acquire. It's a huge responsibility, and you guys have really stood up to it well. And with Parcel E, do you guys realize we are now over 25,000 acres of conservation lands that we have preserved through the ACF program? Over 25,000 acres. You guys rock. And I just wanted to let you guys know how special y'all are, and how much I appreciate you guys dedicating your Thursday evenings, sometimes a really long Thursday evening, to working on conservation and all that you guys have done. So many, many thanks. Pat and I we have a camper van. We're going to go on short trips while COVID is here, just midweek trips. I'm going to get to go play in all these woods that we've preserved. I'm going to practice my botanizing skills and get some of those back, since I've been sitting behind a desk. And I have a gift certificate for a pair of binoculars from everybody at work, in addition to a really nice Leslie Peebles print and a map of all the properties that we together have preserved over the last 20 years. So I want to enhance my birding skills, and I want to go play in the woods. So thanks so much, you guys. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you, Sandy.
Well, thank you so much, Sandy. We have one more part of business to do, and we have to have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Let Sandy. Let Sandy second.
You're right. I take it back.
I can't second it.
Okay, I reinstate it.
Hearing no further discussion, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so
Good night.
much.
Good night.
Night, all.
Good night, you guys. Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Dimmers.
Good to see you, Daryl.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Anne and Christine for coming. That was sweet.